Hi, what's up? It's me, Haley Jones, and today we are talking about a seller net sheet, aka how much money are you going to make based on the numbers. Let's dive in and get going. And today we're talking about when you sell your house in the East Tennessee area, what can you expect to make? Like, how do you calculate that? And I have just a very simple, okay, here are the words coming out of my mouth. I am not a human calculator. I'm not a title company. I'm not your accountant. Okay, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just telling you, this is a simple tool to give you an idea of the net proceeds you would walk away with as a seller when you list your home for sale. So let's dive in. I'm going to show you this tool and we're going to check it out. Now, you probably noticed I love an Excel, okay? And this is a Google sheet. It's the same difference, okay? Now, this is the say we're going to sell 123 Go Vols Lane. It could also be 123 VFL. It could be 123 Go Big Orange. It could be 123 Knoxville, Tennessee. You get what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. So you're going to say this is the address, okay? Now, normally here when I give this to a client, I'm going to put what the sell price is. If we are comparing different offers, then we'll make a different Google sheet for the different offers, right? If we've got multiple offers, then we're going to say, okay, this offer says this. They're wanting blah, 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 such and such, okay? So in general, you have your actual sale price, okay? The general expenses that you're going to have, the cost of the commission for you to hire and use the services of a listing agent. So that is the person that's going to list the home for sale for you. And that is going to come with different services. The home being posted in the MLS. It should include professional video and professional photography. We're not doing cell phone pictures, my friends. No ma'am, Pam. If you see that, you should run, because the first impression of your home is what someone sees online. That's literally the first tour. What somebody sees online is the pictures. Okay, so we're not doing these cell phone pictures, dog in the background, Uncle Bob Tom moving around. No ma'am, no sir. Okay, so that being said, your listing agent, they have a specific set of services to help you sell your house based on your goals. Maybe you have a time goal, a money goal, like I want it to be sold in a day for $11 billion. Me too, honey. Okay. So listing agent commission, buyer agent commission. I have another video about buyer's agent commissions. Our laws about buyer agent commissions changed in August of 2024. No longer can a home be advertised with a certain amount of commission to the buyer's agent. These are all negotiable. Both of these values, I should tell you, are negotiable. Also notice, I can't tell you a number because it's against the rules, essentially. The National Association of Realtors rules, we're not supposed to say numbers out loud, but X is a variable, okay? If you're like, what's a variable? Let's go back to algebra. Anyhow, it's saying some number, okay? Buyer's agent commission, some other amount. It could be the same amount. It could be a different amount. Typically, we can anticipate it's between M% and P%. It's between a certain amount, and I'll leave that there. That being said, that's going to be another cost. Now, if you're like, well, hold on, the law's changed. I don't have to pay a buyer agent commission. Now, this is all based on what your property is, what the conditions are, what the buyer wants, if the buyer has monies, all of these things. That being said, bear in mind that I did a video recently about our sellers still paying agent commissions. From January through April, I pulled all the sales in Knox County, Tennessee, just to get an idea, and 91% of sellers paid buyer agent commission in some form or fashion. So why is that? Well, because the buyer is bringing the monies, right? Now, there are certain situations where a buyer doesn't want to do that. I've had a buyer not want to do that because they wanted to get essentially a better deal on the home. They wanted a lower, basically more negotiating power, and they had the cash to do so. So it really just depends. So keep that in mind. But this is most likely going to be a cost to you. Another cost that you're going to have is your seller closing fees. Now, in this area, at most around $750 for your title expenses. We are not a lawyer state. The title companies do have a lawyer often that it works in the background for the title company, but the title company is the one that does all the paperwork, the title search. They get everything ready to close and they handle the closing, the deed, all those things. So your fee for that, around $750. Now, prorated taxes. You're going to be crediting the buyer for the months of the year that you have lived in the house that year. So if you sell in October and your taxes are $100 a month, that's going to be $1,000. That's going to go to towards crediting the buyer for the taxes for the year when it comes time for them to pay the bill, okay? So just for the sake of this, let's just say that just for ease, this is a $100,000 sell price, $15,000 to the agents each. Again, these are just fake numbers. These are not real. This is to give you an idea. This is your $750 for your title expenses, buyer closing costs, and prepaids. Now, people ask me, are people paying for buyer closing costs? Buyer closing costs and prepaids. Now, this would be if a buyer needs help with their closing costs, so any of their fees, and they can typically only take up to a certain percent. That's at most going to be 3% of whatever the loan amount is. So anyways, you see this most with certain loan types, and I'll just leave that there. So say this person needs 3% closing costs, $3,000, okay? Your payoff. So whatever you owe on the mortgage that's left. Say you have $50,000 left on this. Repairs, if you're gonna pay for any repairs, if you're gonna give them money in lieu of repairs, say you get settled on $500 towards repairs, and then your total expenses. So here's all of your expenses. We're gonna add those up, and then we're gonna subtract your sale price minus all those expenses, which is gonna give you the walkaway number, the number that title is going to give you at closing. Now, again, these are fake numbers. None of this is real. Like, you're not paying an agent 50. If an agent tells you that this would be 15%, okay, this would mean you're paying 30% to agents. These are not real. That's why I put them as crazy. So you can't be like, Haley said, no ma'am, Pam. These are fake numbers. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what are your expenses when it comes to selling a home. Now, this is not taking into consideration things like a 1031 exchange. This is not taking into consideration if you're gonna have any kind of additional tax on the property. So anyways, that being said, this is a very basic way, capital gains tax, there we go. This is not taken into consideration if you have capital gains taxes to pay based on selling within a certain time frame. So just keep in mind, these are super simplistic numbers, but this is a general way to know, okay, how can I calculate what is this going to be looking at? Now, a lot of times when we do this, let me just duplicate this and show you something. A lot of times right now with commissions, we're getting all kinds of different numbers, okay? And sometimes, say for example, maybe the asking price on this house was $120, okay? And say that, we'll say this again. Let's say asking price here is $120, okay? And we got an offer for $100,000, okay? Say you got another offer for $100,000. Let's say this is offer 2, example, just so we can be on the same page, and this will be offer 1. So say the asking price $120, say that we got an offer for $100,000, and then say we got another offer and it was an offer for $90,000. Now, the commission for your listing agent is going to be whatever percentage you agreed on. That's whatever X percentage. So for the purposes of this example, we're going to do the same thing here. Now, if I say, okay, well, maybe this agent the buyer's agent on here is only asking for, or they're asking for $8,000. And then maybe these people don't want closing costs. And then maybe you're not doing any repairs. Well, look at the difference. This was a $10,000 difference, right? But this is a higher net. Now, some people just want a higher sales price for whatever reason. Some people want the higher net for whatever reason. I'm not saying either one, like you live your life, you do you. But that being said, just because the offer number is a certain number does not necessarily mean it's a worse offer. That is why we look at the net. That is why when we talk about agent commissions, we look at what's being asked. We negotiate based on what the net is, right? So that's something else to keep in mind when you're looking at selling, when you're looking at how much you're going to walk away with. What does that look like? You want to keep in mind, like, hey, not all offers are created equal. And the other thing is, what if this one is an as is? In other words, which is gonna change our numbers, so I'll just leave that. But none of these even talk about would be financing type. Is it cash? Is it a conventional? Is it FHA? Etc. Like, what does that look like? How secure, based on financing, aka how secure or how likely is buyer to close based on financing? So that's the number one thing we think about too. It's not just about the numbers. There's a lot of other pieces that go into this, right? So that's one consideration to think about, aka ... So I'm gonna just do this as we're going, but something else this does not take into consideration is inspection period. Like, how long is it? 10-day inspection period? 3-day inspection period, aka how long does buyer have to back out to tie up the home based on inspections, okay? Which takes us to earnest money amount. And what do I mean? So if you have, say for example, we have an offer that the buyer wants 14 days to do inspections. The earnest money is $500. Is that significant enough for you to hold up the house for them to do inspections for 2 weeks and on day 13 back away? And they get their $500 back and you're out 2 weeks. Now, this also depends on how long has your house been on the market? How many offers have you had? Where does this offer fit in the overall landscape? So these are all just pieces of the puzzle. Where does the offer fit in or stack up in the overall listing journey? Because let's be honest, if you get an offer at 50 days and you've not seen anything, you're going to be way more likely to take an offer that's not as appealing if it's further down the line, right? So it's just not that simple is my whole point. So yeah, we're looking at the nuts, but we're also taking into consideration all these other pieces. So anyhow, that being said, I hope, as always, this has been super helpful and super insightful for you. If you would like your own Google Sheet version of my very simple net sheet, which doesn't take into consideration very specific situations, etc., whatever. If you would like a Google version of this for you yourself to manipulate for your own purposes, then please, you can always shoot me an email, HaleyJonesHomes@gmail.com, and I will be happy to help you. That being said, as always, I hope this has been helpful. Click subscribe because I've got so much more to share with you, and I'll see you on the next video.